Coming up on 2020 on ID, she was the apple of her mother's eye.
She was such a beautiful little girl from the time she was born.
And she found love with a successful attorney.
Kelley was very attractive, and Jim was a good-looking guy.
A perfect match, building a fairy tale life.
She was over the moon. Absolutely over the moon. She was so happy.
Why would a marriage that seems so right suddenly snap?
She was very angry. How dare he divorce me? He can't do that.
Did the debutante wife have a secret?
Every drawer, every nook and cranny, there was something. Pills, little straws, all kinds of stuff.
Or did he have something to hide?
She said that her husband was a queer. These are her words.
As the story unfolds, a frantic 911 call.
She's threatening me right now. Please hurry, please.
On the way to you now.
Wife and death. Welcome to 2020 on ID. I'm John Quinones. What would it take to make you cross a line and tap into a dark side you never knew you had? Some people say that's what happened to Kelley Cannon. She was in a downward spiral, addicted to drugs and facing divorce. But could that have led her to strangle her husband in cold blood? As Jim Avila first reported in 2010, Kelley Cannon maintains she's innocent.
A polished beauty and a body in the closet.
The body has no outward sign of visible trauma. However, we believe this death to be suspicious, and it is being investigated as a homicide.
At the heart of the matter, Kelley Cannon, who lived a charmed life, pampered in the way Southern girls of privileged birth can be. Her father, a prominent Nashville plastic surgeon. Her mother, Diane Sanders, raising her as a debutante.
She was just such a beautiful little girl from the time she was born. She's very feminine.
Kelley attends Tennessee's finest schools, finishing at Harpeth Hall, an exclusive private all-girls prep, home to actress Reese Witherspoon and country singer Amy Grant, and where Kelley was a cheerleader and the prom queen. Maggie St. Francis was her friend.
My mother went to Harpeth Hall, and it is known for refinement, and most women that come out of there are super intelligent. They got it going on. It definitely is a major stepping stone for a woman to come out of that school.
She thought about following in Dad's footsteps and medical school. But as that dream fizzled, another one blossomed. Kelley met Jim Cannon.
Kelley was very attractive, and Jim was a good-looking guy. He was a young lawyer, and I think they made a good couple. And I think he really grew to love her.
They quickly became one of Nashville's hot couples. Jim is a man about town. Amy Houston was there when Kelley and Jim first started dating 15 years ago.
Jim was great. He really liked people, and he could talk to anybody. And then when he started dating Kelley, he had brought her in, and we all kind of adopted her as one of the girlfriends.
Jim had a more difficult childhood, boarding schools and parents who divorced when he was a boy. But as Kelley remembers, no one could keep them apart.
He was very witty, extremely funny, and wry, and we were very, very close friends as well as lovers.
Frankly, Mom thought Kelley was too good for Jim Cannon, who, while an attorney, had business failures and was actually in bankruptcy when Kelley told her parents of marriage plans.
Personally, I didn't see it, but I said it's her life.
And Kelley got the wedding she and her mom had planned since childhood.
The wedding was absolutely fantastic. She was a beautiful bride, and it was a large wedding, and it was my only daughter. So we kind of went all out for it. So it was fabulous.
To Mom's surprise, Jim Cannon turned out okay. In fact, he turned things around big time, quitting law and starting a debt collection business that made him a multi-millionaire. Kelley's sweet life continued. A new home in a ritzy section of Nashville and a new family. First 2 boys, and then the baby girl of her dreams.
She wanted a girl so bad she could taste it. And so she did get pregnant finally with this little girl, and oh, she was over the moon.
Look at Mommy. Happy birthday, sweet girl. Uh-oh.
Absolutely over the moon.
An idyllic life, a young, happy family beautiful mom, 3 gorgeous kids, and a dad who was raking it in. What could go wrong? At the time we sat down with her, she was 43. Kelley's face carrying the baggage of a lifestyle turned tragic. Things are going along fine, and then you start having trouble with drugs. True or not true?
I don't think anybody would ever say everything was going great and wonderful, and then suddenly I had this drug problem. I broke my lower back, and like a lot of Americans, I started taking pain medication, and I slowly became to need it more than I probably should have.
What effect did this have on your marriage?
Tremendous strain.
The drug use starts a rapid downward spiral that leads to repeated stints in rehab for Kelley. The children's nanny, Lauren Wilson, says Kelley always had pills within easy reach.
I mean, every drawer, every nook and cranny, there was something. Pills, little straws, and medicine bottles. And I would have to go buy for her 8 to 10 bottles at a time of Delsum cough syrup. She wore a house coat or a dress coat, and she would stick it in her coat, and she would drink that all the time.
In 3 years, police are called to the Cannon home 12 times. Jim files restraining orders because she's constantly menacing the family. The fairy tale marriage is falling apart. Dramatic.
911, what is the exact location of your emergency?
The Cannon's dream home is now a crime in progress.
My wife is an addict, and she's got my baby in her arms, and she is beating on the car right now. And I've got
What's her name?
Her name is Kelley Cannon. She's screaming right now. She's beating on the car with her shoe. It's just so pitiful. It's so freaking pitiful. She's a narcotics addict. Don't leave, Kelley. She's threatening me right now. Please hurry, please.
They're on the way to you now, sir?
She's a lunatic. She's putting the baby in the car. Kelley, don't take the baby. Move away. Move away. Do not get in the car. She's like, do not get in the car. Do not get in that car. No, do not. Come with Daddy. You're not taking the children.
Police chase Kelley, her daughter in the car with her, through the neighborhood streets at 70 miles an hour before giving up, waiting for her to come home, and throwing her in jail for evading arrest and violating the restraining order.
It's all so deeply sad at so many levels. It's your marriage, it's your kids, and here's the person you love absolutely going nuts. And you're like, what do you do? I mean, there's nothing in school that teaches you about these things. And he had just filed her off to every place he could to get her help or whatever. And they went to therapy and counseling and did whatever they could do. And I know that Jim did his best, but it's a two-way street.
I thought it was incredible that he had hung in there as long as he had. He just wanted her to get better. He didn't want a divorce. He wanted her as a wife and mother.
But finally, Jim Cannon had enough. He calls his friend and prominent divorce attorney John Hollins and reluctantly gives the okay to end the marriage.
After that incident, because it endangered the child, I mean, it scared him to death, scared the police to death. He actually, that week, sent me an email, said, stick a fork in me, I am done. I cannot do this anymore.
That was the last thing he wanted to do. He did not want to take custody of the kids. But he said, she's going to hurt us, you know, I have to do this. And I'm like, you're damn right. You don't have any choice but to do that. You must save your own family.
That was the view from the outside. On the inside of the Cannon marriage, Kelley saw it differently. Jim was a supporting husband and was helping you. That's not an accurate picture of what was going on?
No, that's not an accurate picture, not at all. Jim had a drinking problem for a very, very long time.
But Jim wasn't kicked out of the house, and Jim didn't have to go to rehab, and Jim didn't have a restraining order against him.
No.
You did. Jim Cannon requests sole custody of their 3 children and tells his attorney he will no longer pay for Kelley's treatment. Somehow, it's all a shock to her. What I'm hearing from you is she seemed to be almost insulted that he would divorce her.
Yes, I do remember her saying, you know, how dare he divorce me, he can't do that. And I was thinking, okay, well, you know, I think he is, but she was very angry that he was actually taking that step.
Just days after Jim tells his attorney to move forward on the divorce, another 911 call is placed from the Dream House on Bowling Avenue. And this time, it is not Jim Cannon on the line.
He's dead. He's been dead, and something horrible's happened to him.
A corpse and a careless killer provide police with valuable evidence.
First thing I noticed was the tip of a latex glove laying on the bedroom floor.
But there's one thing that's missing.
He's dead. Where are the children? You know, someone had to take him.
Stay with us.
What's the address for the emergency?
We need an ambulance immediately. He's upstairs naked in the closet and he's not breathing.
It begins with frantic phone calls from a housekeeper starting her day at the Cannon stately home in Nashville's prestigious Green Hills district. She sees something suspicious in the room where Jim Cannon often sleeps. The dresser has been moved in front of a closet.
Good evening. Metro Police investigate a suspicious death in West Nashville.
Police say the victim is a local attorney.
A housekeeper found James Cannon's body.
45. Is he conscious? Is he conscious? No. No. He opened the closet door and found him. He's beaten. He's been beaten and he's dead. Scared to go near him. He's naked. We put a blanket over him.
The nanny turns the phone over to the maid, who tells 911 there's nothing they can do about Jim, and they want the police to know about the kids. They're missing.
He's dead.
All right, well, why do you think he's dead?
Something's happened. There's
he's cold and stiff.
I hadn't touched him. He's definitely stiff. He's white, except for he has markings all over him. He has red markings all over him. He's white, except that he has... Oh, God.
All right. Can I give you instructions on how to do CPR until the person gets there?
No, there's no CPR. He's dead. He's dead, and he's been in that closet since I got here at 8:30 this morning. And someone closed the door on him and pushed the dresser into the closet. The kids are gone. All of the kids are gone. Both of his cars are here. He's had major problems out of his wife. I even have a paper that's got a restraining order where she's not to come around. I think that she has came, and that's what's happened. Somebody needs to find those kids.
The next call from the house staff goes to Kelley Cannon's mother, Diane.
The phone rang, and it was the housekeeper. And she said that I needed to get over there right now, that Jim was dead. And I said, he's not dead. I just talked to him last night. And in fact, he had invited me over there for dinner that night. It got to be a little late in the day, and I said, no, I don't think I want to get out this late. And I said, I'll catch you next time or something. And I was the last to talk to him, evidently.
Diane is in disbelief.
I said, have you felt for a pulse? And she said, no, he's dead, he's dead. And I said, he can't be.
James Cannon lived in this house with his 3 small children. This morning, he was found
Kelley
dead.
Cannon had been thrown out of her dream house. Jim, fed up with her drug abuse, explosive outbursts, and neglect of the kids, took her keys, and she isn't allowed on the premises anymore. He now lives here with his 2 boys and infant daughter, with daytime help from both a nanny and housekeeper. On the morning of June 23rd, the help showed up to an open back door. Lieutenant Brad Putnam is lead detective on the case.
There was no indication of forced injury at all.
But upstairs, there was plenty of indication of foul play. After his separation from Kelley, Jim Cannon often slept alone in the bottom bunk of his boys' beds. They, in turn, slept in the master suite. Around the bunk where Jim had slept the night before were bottles of mineral water, his briefcase, and the disheveled bedding. No Jim, but in the boys' closet, a horrid scene.
The victim was laying on his right side. He was nude. He did have bruises and abrasions on the right side of his face and under his right eye.
And just below his chin, what appeared to be the fatal injury. deep grooves around Jim Cannon's neck.
Between the parallel marks, you could see, a little bit of blood in the skin. The skin was broke. He also had a little bit of blood coming from his nostril and his mouth.
And is that consistent with when you strangle, what happens?
Definitely around the neck, yes, sir.
Detectives quickly look around the bedroom for a murder weapon, and within minutes turn up what prosecutor Katie Miller would call a weapon of opportunity.
What do you believe was used to kill him?
I believe it was the cord from the phone charger, because the base of the charger was there at the scene. The cord had been ripped off. Jim Cannon's blood was on the base. And I further believe that those marks all over his face were the prongs from the charger somehow hitting his face.
In those first few moments at the bedroom crime scene, Detective Putnam makes another huge discovery, perhaps the biggest piece of evidence left behind by whoever took Jim Cannon's last breath.
First thing I noticed was the tip of a latex glove laying on the bedroom floor. And laying down next to the victim's feet was another latex glove.
And inside the closet, a strong-smelling clue that someone was trying to erase their tracks.
A very strong odor of bleach in this closet. Matter of fact, there was an empty bleach bottle about 2 feet from his head.
As police are searching the bedroom, they're told that custody of the couple's 3 children is a major flashpoint, and now no one knows where they are. So police must face a second, perhaps even more urgent mystery.
I don't know if they were hurt, but I mean, both vehicles are there. He's dead. Where are the children? Someone had to take him.
And what did you know about the wife at that time?
I had been informed that they were going through a divorce, so we had a patrol unit go over to the condo where she was staying at, which was less than probably 5 minutes away.
Police would soon have their answer. Were they investigating a single murder, or were the Cannons' children the next round of victims? A possible explanation for what happened that fateful night.
I have to get the boys and get out of here because whatever's happened, I have to leave right now.
Stay with us.
This back window here is the window to the kid's bedroom where the victim was found in the closet. We also noticed that the back door here was open as well.
Someone had used their bare hands to murder wealthy attorney Jim Cannon and steal his children in the middle of the night. Police quickly found the murderer's point of entry.
There was also a chair in front of this window, and it was obvious that the curtains had been pushed over to the side so the person could gain entry, crawled in through this window to get, onto the chair and then into the house.
But what they did not know yet was who took the kids and how he or she got out of the house, until police went a few blocks away to the estranged wife's condominium, where Kelley Cannon answers the door, missing baby on her hip, 2 boys watching TV. The kids are alive. Now detectives, tape recorders rolling, want to find out how they got there, without letting on to Kelley that Jim is dead.
When's the last time you talked to him on the phone?
Last night.
Kelley says she was out with a friend when her husband called her on the cell phone.
All I know is that he sounded crazy.
The friend was Amy Houston.
It sounded like it was him based on the way they were arguing.
What was she saying that you could hear?
That you can't have the kids. I mean, they're mine. And she was very angry that night, saying things like, how dare he divorce me? He can't divorce me.
But Kelley has a different recollection of that phone call. She says it was a plea for help, that Jim was in distress and despite the order of protection, wanted to see her.
I wouldn't have gone there, but Jim called me and told me to come over.
Kelley tells police she hesitates to visit the house, but in the middle of the night, she becomes worried about Jim. A sixth sense, she tells us, that pulled her back to her dream house.
He was very, very angry when he called, and he wouldn't tell me what he was angry about. But something was off. And so I drove into the driveway, and the door was open in the back. and things were very awry. I just got that feeling in my gut.
She said the house was in disarray, that she called for him, didn't get any answer, that she went upstairs and the baby was crying, and that she got the baby and the two boys, and she left. So, of course, the next obvious question would be, well, why didn't you call the police?
Such a good question. I had to ask it, too.
Nobody grabs their children in fear, goes home and goes to sleep. That person goes home and calls the police.
It just hit me that I have to get the boys and get out of here, because whatever's happened, I have to leave with the children right now.
Why didn't you call 911?
Because I didn't want to get Jim in trouble. I didn't know what in the heck he was involved in. I'm thinking that maybe he had a drunk pal there, maybe he left and he was the less drunk. I'm thinking I'll hear from him the next morning is what I'm thinking. And if I don't hear from him, I'll call him. That's what I'm thinking.
You thought that he had brought somebody home who had left his house in disarray and left the children there.
Yes, I do.
In fact, Kelley says when police questioned her that morning, she didn't know Jim was dead.
You have the children. The last person maybe to talk to him.
He was still dead.
Yes, ma'am.
How did he die? He was laying there dead by himself.
But police are not buying it and become even more convinced that Kelley Cannon is hiding something when they look around her condo and can't believe their eyes. Right there in plain view is what looks like a match to that first piece of critical evidence found near Jim Cannon's lifeless body.
Well, in the living room, laying on the floor was a grocery bag, and I looked down in the grocery bag and there was a box of latex gloves. It's not like these gloves are in a pantry or in a cabinet, but right there laying on the living room floor in this grocery bag. And we knew the killer wore gloves, so that was pretty significant. Got my arousal up like, what's the deal here?
Detectives are so interested in the gloves, they visit 2 drugstores to see if surveillance cameras have picked anyone up buying white latex gloves the night of the murder. And sure enough, there she is, caught on tape.
She walks over to where the box of latex gloves are located, picks them up, puts them in the bin, continues to walk around a little while in the store, and the camera shows her walking out the front door past the cash registers and not paying for the gloves.
Any idea why she would do that and not pay for them?
Well, I wouldn't pay for them because there's a possibility there could be a paper trail.
I'm not captured on camera stealing it. I go out of vision of the camera while I'm at this counter, and then I leave. I'm sure I paid for it in cash. Okay?
So you did pick up the gloves, but you paid for them?
Yes.
But they couldn't find a receipt for it either, right?
No.
So that's why I think they say that you shoplifted it, because there was no receipt.
Well, it could be, yeah.
You realize that looked pretty bad, right?
It's just a very convenient place. It was very ill-timed. It's very convenient to say I shoplifted.
Paid for or not, the latex gloves are key evidence, and not just because Kelley is seen leaving the store with them. Prosecutor Katie Miller calls it the single most important piece of forensics in the case.
Well, the tip of the latex glove, absolutely. We were very lucky that she overlooked that in her haste to clean up the crime scene and get out of there with her 3 children, because that had damning evidence in it. It had her DNA on the inside and Jim Cannon's blood, his DNA on the outside of the tip of the glove.
Still, the evidence against Kelley Cannon is not a slam dunk.
We didn't have the smoking gun. We didn't have the eyewitness. We did not have a confession.
What she had was a 90-pound anorexic woman recently out of rehab with little muscle tone, a tiny person accused of using her bare hands to strangle her husband with no outside help.
That someone was able to get the cord around his neck quickly and use the leverage, and that's what killed him.
He was hit on the head in a concussive fashion. He had a lot of little superficial contusions. And I have to stop for a second.
Sure. Could Kelley Cannon have committed the crime?
I just don't see how it happened the way they say it happened. I just couldn't do it. I didn't do it. There's no possible way.
And for the first time, you'll hear Kelley Cannon's real defense, one never even mentioned in court.
Do you believe he was involved in some kind of rough alternative sex?
Yes.
Stay with us.
Kelley Cannon has been charged with the killing of her husband, Jim. Prosecutors believe they have a strong case. But with largely circumstantial evidence, can they prove this petite mother of three could pull off such a violent crime? We return to Jim Avila.
The cause of death was strangulation.
The body was discovered.
Trial for the Green Hills mom accused of strangling her husband continues.
She's sitting to my right. I photographed it numerous times.
Use all these here.
Nashville's most famous debutante is now on trial for her life. And her hometown, where she grew up enjoying the finest Tennessee has to offer, is now enjoying her meltdown.
Prosecutors say Kelley had a serious drug addiction and James had a restraining order against her.
Everything points in Kelley's direction. Police even quote her own mom against her.
I asked her, well, do you have any idea who you think would have done this? And she stated, Kelley did it. Kelley probably did it. And I mean, that just caught me off guard.
She implicated her own daughter?
Exactly.
That is an untruth, a total untruth.
The detective quotes your mother as saying, right away, Kelley did this. What do you think of that?
I really don't think my mother said that.
Believe Kelley and her mom or not about that first day during the trial,
Diane Sanders has her own questions about the case.
Diane Sanders is her daughter's biggest defender.
A little girl of her size could not have done this. There's no way a 90-pound girl could do that much damage to a man of his size.
The theory that they have is that someone, you, surprised him in a drunken stupor, were able to put a cord around his neck and strangle him to death.
I just don't see how it happened the way they say it happened. I just couldn't do it. I didn't do it. There's no possible way.
People can do amazing things under amazing circumstances, and I think women are sometimes a lot stronger than people give them credit for. And Jim Cannon, again, he was not a big man.
Jim Cannon was in fact described by one friend as petite, 5'6", 163 pounds.
The prosecutor insists you are certainly strong enough that you could have easily have done it. Do you see the logic in that?
I see the logic in it, but I've put on about 30 to 40 pounds since I've been incarcerated. There's absolutely no way. It's just, it's ludicrous to me.
Forensic pathology.
Kelley's defense attorney hired a forensic pathologist who testified that Jim's injuries were massive.
My opinion is that it would take a strong person. You would have to be able to pull this ligature very tightly and hold it with a large amount of force. And so again, that indicates somebody with substantial strength that was performing that act at the time.
And the defense had its own glove evidence. Besides the incriminating latex found around the murder scene, someone dropped 2 other gloves in the backyard, perhaps during an escape. Prosecutor Katie Miller says that all looked staged.
There was no DNA on them, and the agent testified that they appeared to have not even been worn, like they were just thrown there for whatever reason.
Maybe to lead you astray. Right?
Exactly.
But Kelley hoped those 2 gloves would fit in with her own theory of a mystery man killing her husband. One she says she hid from police and never took the stand to tell the jury. A secret she says she kept to protect Jim. And it's the real reason, she says, she didn't call 911 the night she found her kids in the house alone and no sign of her husband.
You didn't want to tell them what you really suspected?
No. No.
During police interrogation, she hinted at what she called Jim's demons.
My understanding is that he was a fairly stable individual.
No, he wasn't stable, and he was a bad drinker.
Later that same day, she told another detective Jim used drugs and was violent.
Has he ever beat you?
Yeah.
He has? You ever filed a police report?
No.
How come?
Because I'm scared of him.
But until now, Kelley has never publicly expressed her deepest fears. Her unsubstantiated, and to those who knew them both, unbelievably desperate claims that her husband lived a wild lifestyle of booze, drugs, and rough sex with strangers that no one but she saw. And that is what scared her so badly the night of the murder.
I freaked out. I freaked out. I mean, I didn't know what to think.
And today, do you believe that this alternative lifestyle was not only the source of your fears, but may have been the reason why Jim is dead today?
Yes, I absolutely do.
So you believe he was involved in some kind of rough alternative sex?
Yes.
The day I arrested her, she had made a comment that she said that her husband was a queer. These are her words.
The ugliest part of Kelley's story was that Jim may have died in some kind of rough sex or homosexual sex. What do you think of that?
I believe it's untrue, and I think she was making these allegations to cast aspersions on him and destroy his character. None of these allegations came out in the divorce. Had he been having inappropriate relationships with a man or a woman, you know, that's very relevant in a divorce.
Police say there is no evidence to back Kelley's claims. In fact, tests were done by the medical examiner to see if Jim had sex that night.
When you do an autopsy, you're also going to perform what we call an MLE.
A rape kit. You're looking for semen.
Correct. There was no indication of anything like that.
And nothing like that was proven or even raised at trial, leaving a very frustrated Kelley Cannon.
I didn't do this, and for some reason or another, nobody is interested in finding out who did.
In a moment, the case against Kelley.
Every piece of evidence will point to Kelley Cannon,
including a devastating surprise witness.
A surprising confession Kelley allegedly made to a bartender.
And what did you do or say when you saw a picture of the woman you had seen in the bar that day?
I cursed. I said, "Holy." Can you say that in court?
Well, you just did.
Stay with us.
We need an ambulance immediately.
A housekeeper found James Cannon's body inside their home in a closet.
every piece of evidence will point to Kelley Cannon as the person who strangled her husband, and absolutely nobody else.
According to the state, Kelley Cannon is a 90-pound, 5-foot, size 0, anorexic assassin, the gloved avenger fueled by 3 glasses of wine on the night of Sunday, June 22nd, 2008.
A summary of the prosecution's case from both sides. A Kelley Cannon kicked out of her dream house because of drugs and reckless behavior. Told by her husband in a phone call he would not share custody of the children. Friend Amy Houston was with Kelley when she got the news.
She was talking about, that she felt that they were her kids and that he couldn't have them.
Houston says a clearly agitated Kelley leaves in a hurry. It's just before 11 at night. Within minutes, Kelley is picked up by a surveillance camera at Walgreens. The tape says 11:17 when the loss prevention specialist says he can see Kelley take latex gloves from the shelf.
You can see Mrs. Cannon put the box in her arm, is that right?
Yes.
Then the jury hears what Kelley says she sees in that videotape, in a phone call made in jail while awaiting trial. She's talking to a friend named James Dean Baker.
They're all hung up on them gloves they got you at Walgreens about something. I don't know what that was about.
Oh, that's just bullshit. There's somebody else that's that girl that he had the affair with.
That's who they got on the tape?
Yeah.
She's probably the one that did it.
The main thing we wanted the jury to get from that phone call is that she was not a truthful person. Clearly that's her on the videotape.
Dr. Thomas Deering, the medical examiner, is called not only to establish that Jim Cannon was strangled, but how he was killed.
This is about the right size of the ligature that could have been used to strangle this individual.
And key to the prosecution case, did the doctor think Kelley was strong enough to do it?
Without being an overly strong person, you can generate a lot of damage along that band. All you have to do is get it wrapped and hold it. You just have to hold the ligature for a couple of minutes and that person will die.
Both the housekeeper and the nanny who discovered Jim Cannon's body told their shocking tale.
What did you see inside the closet?
I seen Mr. Cannon.
Okay, and can you describe what he looked like?
Color of the skin. It was not normal. It was dark. The first thing I seen in the palm of his hand, and it was like the color of charcoal.
What did you do when you saw him in there?
Immediately slammed the door back.
I fell asleep in my mom and dad's room.
And was anybody with you?
But perhaps the most emotional testimony came from Jim and Kelley's oldest son.
It was important for the jury to hear from somebody who was actually there and to tell them that it was just his mother who woke him and his brother up. There was nobody with her.
Only the audio portion of his testimony was allowed to be recorded.
My mom woke me up and she said, "We just have to go." And I said, "Can I go get a pillow?" And she said no. She seemed nervous and like jumpy.
The younger of the two sons did not testify, but in a statement he gave to a forensic interviewer, called out for his father and was concerned that his father wasn't there. Why wouldn't she want him to go in the bedroom?
Because that's where the dad slept, even though it was his bedroom.
That's where the dad slept, but that's where all of their belongings were. That's where all their clothes, their toys, everything they had was in that bedroom. So we wanted the jury to know that Kelley Cannon told her son, "No, you can't go in the bedroom and get a pillow."
So as they're leaving, they're asking, "Where's Dad?" And
exactly.
Jim and Kelley Cannon's oldest son also recounted a disturbing incident of domestic violence that happened just a month before his father's murder.
He testified about the incident on May the 21st, where he says they had been arguing and then he saw his mother push his father on the ground.
And finally, the blockbuster. A stranger with no axe to grind, didn't know Jim or Kelley. In fact, met her only once at a bar, 1 month before the murder.
A lady came in, sat at the end of the bar.
Aaron Bagley tends bar and is a good listener. And what he heard that night, he will never forget.
She was so mad that she could kill him, then if he took the babies, tried to take the babies from her, that she would kill him.
Idle talk, perhaps blowing off steam, Bagley thought, until he was at home watching television 5 weeks later.
I saw a picture of her, and I recognized that it was the same lady that was in the bar that day.
The DNA in the glove, matching Kelley's genetic code. Jim's blood on the outside of that glove point in her direction. Police also showed the jury the jeans Kelley was wearing the night of the murder. They had a bleach stain and Jim's blood on them. And even in the end, after 3 days of riveting testimony, Kelley Cannon's defense attorney relied mostly on her waif-like appearance to counter everything the prosecutors threw at her.
Mrs. Cannon was simply not capable, physically or emotionally, to inflict the kind of devastating damage that you've heard about over the last couple of days.
You saw the photographs that are evidence in this case. He's obviously asleep in bed, or he's in bed. Once Mrs. Cannon had the ligature around his neck. If he's passed out, if he's just asleep, Dr. Deering said he could be unconscious in 10 seconds.
She's anorexic, she's asthmatic, she's subsisting on wine, enough prescription medications to choke a racehorse, and her ever-present inhaler. But the state's theory is that she morphs into a perfect killing machine.
And with that, both sides rested their case, leaving Kelley Cannon's fate in the hands of the jury. Would they agree that physics are on Cannon's side? It is a whiplash deliberation. Within an hour, the jury has its decision.
Kelley Cannon sat motionless. The jury returned the verdict, has reached a verdict in the case of a green.
As news cameras roll outside the courthouse.
Let's go live now to the Birch Criminal Court building.
And I also understand that you do have a verdict in this case.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Regarding the charge of murder in the first degree.
Guilty.
Guilty of first degree premeditated murder. All right.
Just that quickly, 12 of Kelley Cannon's neighbors from Nashville send her away for life.
That's the quickest verdict I've ever had. I figured it'd probably take 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, you know. But I mean, like I said, the evidence was so strong. You know, you can't get around that DNA. DNA evidence is stronger than a witness, as far as I'm concerned, because you can attack that witness, attack his credibility, say he made a misidentification. You can't do that with DNA.
Kelley Cannon did not testify. She didn't talk to the press after the verdict until now.
When the jury came back and they said guilty, what were you thinking?
I was just numb. I can't explain what it's like to live in this kind of bereavement and grief and loss. It's all painful. There's nothing that's not painful about it.
Kelley says she misses her children terribly, but is ambivalent about a jailhouse visit. All three now live with Jim's surviving sister.
Do you want them to come and see you here?
Some days I do, and some days I don't. I just can't imagine I'm here.
Are you surprised that a woman of this upbringing, this status, clean record before the drug problems, would land up murdering her husband?
Very bizarre. The drug addictions, alcohol addictions, and the mental problems of mental illness. I think that combination was disastrous for her. I think it turned her at times into a very violent person. And yes, I am shocked. It doesn't really make sense.